certainly, I think that's an interesting, and I'd love to see the results of that presentation as well. But here's the reality of what we know today.
I could send it to you.
I'd love to see it, and please do. But the reality is this: Toyota is still the #1 selling retail brand in the entire country. Camry is still the #1 selling passenger car in the country. Our market share remains very strong here in the U.S., and we're going to continue to try to keep it that way. You know, to me, this is having been around for I hate to always say this, but it's been 30 years now working in this industry, and working very hard to build this brand with in a relationship with our dealers. But it comes out to be a pretty simple business. We have a responsibility at Toyota to develop great products that consumers want, great quality products, and do a good job of making sure that the appropriate value and pricing is right for this market. And the dealers have another simple way, and that's taking great care of the customers. If you do those two things, and I think we have done a pretty good job of that in the past, I think you have a pretty good chance of being successful here in the United States. We're going to continue to focus on that. Other folks can predict what's going to happen in the future, and certainly we've got our own folks that will take a look at the market and try to anticipate where the market is going. In this case, the study that you mentioned points for an optimistic view for one of our competitors. So, yeah, I'd say great for them, and we're going to continue to try to compete and try to satisfy customers in the market. But I would like to see what's going on. Yes.
Hello, I'm James with Plainfield. I just wanted you to expand a little bit more on your involvement with various charities.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell us about who you work with and what your featured is concerning the charity card.
Well, our focus at Toyota is in a couple of key areas. First is in education and literacy. If you ask me what I do personally, I serve on the board of a couple of organizations that I feel passionate about. One is called the Black Star Organization out of Chicago. I've worked on the board of that project for probably the past 10 years. Our focus there is on reaching out to parents, to focus on helping parents be better parents and giving them the tools to do that. One of the things we talk about in our educational crisis here in the United States is all the discussions tends to a lot of times go on the students. Well, the students need some help too, and that help's got to come from the parents. So that's where it's one group that I've been working with, what we focused on. We started in Chicago, we call it the Toyota Parent University. And we offer an array of classes and support for parents in the Chicago area. And we think we're making a difference. We work with a gentleman that heads up the Black Star Project in Chicago. His name is Philip Jackson. I don't know if you had a chance to meet him. He used to work for the Chicago school systems. As a matter of fact, I think he was the assistant superintendent to Arnie Duncan when they both were in Chicago. Mr. Duncan got some kind of new job there, I shouldn't have been there. But Philip is still in Chicago. He left the school system and is very, very passionate about working with parents and helping them in their efforts to raise kids. The other thing that I do, I serve on the board of the First Tee for South in Los Angeles. My personal belief in mine, I kind of like golf. And another thing I believe is if you can hook a kid on golf, you at least know where he is for 4 hours. just my personal opinion. Yes.
After having gone through this huge national recall of electronic problems, what would you like to see in terms of government regulation and the way these kinds of recalls are handled? What have you learned from that?
Well, I don't think we set the agenda in terms of what's going to happen on future recalls. I mean,
No, but you're one of the first ones who's gone through something like that.
Absolutely.
So what have you learned from it?
Well, I think you gotta communicate, and you gotta be transparent. I mean, those are the two things that we were certainly criticized for, is our communication with Vincent. And as I mentioned earlier, we're doing everything we can to make sure that we do the best possible job that we can internally to communicate with Vincent. And we're gonna be transparent. We have no, I think that the whole recall landscape has kind of changed since our own incident. So now I think it's going to be even more incumbent on not only on Toyota, but all manufacturers to be forthcoming in what's happening with our problems, bringing the solutions to bear so that the customers, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the customers are safe in their vehicles and they're not concerned, because that was one of the real challenges when you're going through this, to see the concern and to hear the concern in the customer's voice. When people are calling the 800 line and driving the dealerships, and customers are looking at you eyeball to eyeball and saying, Jim, is my car safe? And having gone through that, I think we owe a certain level of responsibility to the customer who will invest in the product and is one of the consumers. We have to do a better job.
Do you think NASA will be called in more frequently in this sort of thing?
You know what? I'm not sure. I think we're all very interested in seeing the results of the NASA evaluation. You mentioned exponent. I think we're very interested in seeing the results of the exponent evaluation on vehicle electronics as we get the data and the facts become available. I think we'll put the whole story together.
Jim, you mentioned the Camry, and recently NHTSA gave it a 3-star overall crash test rating. Do you think that's going to have any impact on sales, and do you think you'll be able to restore the vehicles previously high rated?
Well, I think what we've had is we've had the criteria change in terms of how the vehicles were evaluated. So us, along with probably the other manufacturers, we're going to have to go back and look at the criteria. The Camry, in my opinion, is still a very, very safe car. The criteria has changed, and we're going to look at the criteria and work to make sure that we do the best job that we can for the customers to make sure that car is safe. That's all we can do.
Maybe one more question. I know you got to get to the airport.
I'm good.
Okay, you set the agenda.
Yeah.
Jim, a question for you. You mentioned the 80% success rate that you had with getting the customers come in to get the vehicle. Really, is Toyota looking at another campaign to get? I assume you're not satisfied until 100% of the customers have been remedied. Is Toyota looking at doing anything more? Another letter? How do you get the customers in who you haven't gotten in already with your advertising and your contacts looking out for you? Is at some point that there are certain customers you're never going to get in no matter how? Can you comment on that?
Yeah. Typically, on a typical recall, and these are industry numbers, you will typically, after 18 months, get about 70% of the people return. So after 9 months, when we're at 80%, that's a pretty successful campaign repair record. The remaining people, will we get 100% of them? In a perfect world, we would, but reality probably tells me I'm not sure if we're going to get every customer to bring that car in. Dealers are doing everything in their ability to reach out, as they always do. When customers come in, they're checking the serial number. They have specific outreach in terms of direct mail, tools that they use, and reaching out to consumers on the internet to try to encourage them to come in and get their car repaired. So I'm sure that will be ongoing, and we'll do everything in our power to get as many of those vehicles repaired as possible. We're on a pretty good pace, I think. Yes.
Hi, Lori Gilbert.
Hey, Lori.
Your statement says $1 million an hour on average on research and development that Toyota is spending. How is that broken down, and where would you say the largest percentage of
really does sound like a lot, and it is a lot. And it's also public record. And when you look at the financial statement reported from TMC, I think it was $725 billion or $87 billion US was the number. And that's what we invest in R&D. It turns out to be $1 million a month. The percentages in terms of how that's broken out, I don't have those today, but I'm sure that we understand what goes to safety, design, all the other issues. But we invest heavily in research and development. We have done so, and we have always been ranked by different consulting firms as one of the companies that invest a high percentage of their income in research and development.
We have a deadline of 2015 for electric cars. Might some of that be, that $1 million an hour be going into research and development of that, and also to work with all the other automobile manufacturers to standardize the electric car?
Well, there are a number of emerging technologies on the horizon. I think we all know that hybrid technology is certainly one. And then you talk about investment in R&D. Let's stop for a minute and back up 10 years. We introduced the Prius in the United States over 10 years ago. And I think many of you will recall that when we introduced Prius, roughly the year 2000, gas was about 99 cents a gallon. And as you will also recall, we didn't meet with a very favorable reception in a lot of circles with regard to the introduction of the Prius. People thought it would be a fad. People thought it was a science experiment. Well, 1 million units later, I think the science experiment has been relatively successful. So, as far as Toyota being prepared for the future, we will be prepared for the future. We're looking at electric vehicles. We're looking at fuel cell vehicles. We're looking at plug-in hybrids. I mentioned that we have 150 of those plug-in hybrids here in the country now. And we're using them in a demonstration fleet. As a matter of fact, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Ed, you've had a couple here in the Washington, D.C. area? Okay, so they've had a couple here in the area. Make sure you reach out to Ed and the team here in Washington if you haven't had a chance to drive that vehicle. I would encourage you to do so because I would really welcome your feedback on this emerging technology and where we think there may be another opportunity.